Welcome to our talk. I know we're competing with a concert, but we really appreciate you being here, and I'm particularly appreciative of you being here because this is our ninth collaboration with Soul DXB, so it really feels like we're pretty archaic. I'm Butheina from Cinema Akil, and we used to do screenings here at Soul DXB at the venue, and we're doing them off circuit and all over the place, and it always feels like every time I'm sitting here on stage, it's like a full circle moment with folks that we really appreciate. We run into a lot of folks that we end up working with. So, yeah, thank you again. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to join in a moment of silence in remembrance of the 45,600 known lives unjustly and brutally taken in Gaza in the genocide, including 17,492 children since October the 7th, 2023. Thank you. So I'm Butheina Kazim. I'm the founder of Cinema Akil, an independent cinema platform based here in Dubai, and we pop up all over the place now. We've been popping up since 2014, so it's actually been 10 years of that, and we opened our doors in 2018. And we've been, as I said, we've been collaborating with Soul DXB for quite a long time, because we kind of have decided to be refuseniks in arms and build things that are here to stay and build things that are in defiance of ephemeral existence, which is kind of antithesis to living or working in a city like Dubai. And we just had a screening for DJ Mehdi's documentary. And this really brings us full circle to this moment, to 40 Mustaqil, to the amazing work that they've built. If you look around you at Soul DXB, the creative language, the branding, and everything, we're going to hear a lot more about it. But it gives me immense pleasure to introduce and to welcome Neda Hesham, who's been a collaborator, partner of Cinema Akil since many years now, 4 years.
Yeah.
Welcome, Neda.
Hi.
So I guess let's start here at Soul DXB, building things that are really like in defiance of erasure.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about this year? How's it different than last year? And yeah.
First off, thank you for coming. I know there is a party out there and it sounds very tempting, so thank you so much for being here. And I'll just echo what you've been saying. Every time I'm here, it feels very heartwarming to be around people that are like an extended family of sorts, and I'm like amazed by the fact that our practice has brought us here to people that I now call friends and family. So being in Soul DXB, a brand that we've worked with for last year and this year, and also Butheina, whom we've worked with on a couple of projects now, feels very heartwarming, and I think this is very regionally specific to be that in touch with so many people around different countries, but it feels very much like home, and it's something that I hold very dear to my heart. So thank you for being here, and yeah. When it comes to Soul has been a journey, and then now family. We know they're everything and how they're moving around and everything about them. We've been working with them since last year on now 3 projects, and I think it's very interesting to be part of the brand in that sense, because you really understand almost like how strategically they want to move from one year to the next. And last year it was very like focused on music. It was like hip hop 15, if you guys have been here, and their visual language has been very much focused on that, and our research has been very much focused on that, and they were like extremely happy about that, and they wanted like to hammer on the idea of hip hop, like celebrating that. And even like we did a bit of research when it comes to like records and all, and like the lineup responded to that as well. And I feel like people miss out on how much visual language has to do with like the strategy of the brand, not only like cute visuals for a festival. It has to do with how they want to position themselves in that time and in that period. And then this year, for instance, they came back and they're like, listen, we want to expand our horizon. It is about music because it's an inherent part of the brand, but we also want to delve into art and culture more and more. And this also like shifts how the brand language speaks and how you present yourself in a way or another. And the brand is, and I remember like talking to Roja and Hussein, and I'm like, I think the brand is kind of growing up and it's now more mature. It's like it had an older sister and it had a younger sister, and now it's the older sister. It still has this funk to it and it's hip and it needs to stay relevant in a sense. But now it's a bit more dressed up in a way. And we collaborate.
It's that gray hair, it's sexy.
It has like
here, it knows what it's talking
about. A bit of a nice, salt and pepper to it. So it has that to it now. And we collaborated with an amazing artist called Fathi Gouda, who's فنان تشكيلي مصري معروف. So it was also that like the kind of collaborations you move with and you like approach also speaks about how the brand is going to translate at the very end. So this is like kind of the shift that happened from last year to this year, and I hope it registers well and people can see like the different nuances the brand now displays in a way.
In a way, it's sort of a match made in heavenly heavens, because they are also a brand not only that is dedicated to kind of digging their heels in and sort of also being defiant, and it's something that we saw eye to eye through the work that we did together, and now and 40 Mustaqil in kind of our collaborations. And they've always been insistent about printed matter. Like this has been something that's incredibly, impressive and, consistent and almost like stubborn, about the brand. Like every year there would be these amazing catalogs. Like if you come to Cinema Akil, in our bookshelves, we have the years, like the whole archive of their catalog, and this year as well, and the printed invitations. And this is something that 40 Mustaqil is very, it's in the foundation, it's in the DNA. And this year, and this is the big like reveal here at Soldi XB, we have the launch of ISDAR Mustaqil, your first publication. So if you can tell us a little bit more about it as we pass around a copy. There's one that's going around. We'll also pass this one, and please feel free to go through it as Nada tells us the journey, the story. And why go into print? Like, why put out a publication in 2024? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And appreciate the representation right there.
Oh, it's Cinema Akil all the way. I think for us, like you said, print is almost stubborn. I like that word. We call it resistance, but it's such a big word. But stubborn is much more accessible of a word. So I like that, and I'll take that from you now. I think print matter and publishing has been so inherent to the region. يعني صناعة الكتب in general في القاهرة, في بغداد, في بيروت. It's such an inherent practice in itself to the region, and I think part of me is stubborn that as it's almost nonsensical it is to keep printing now. I think it's an important practice that I feel we need to hold on tight to, and إصدار مستقل to me is almost like a nod to that. Obviously, we have a passion to that as graphic designers by nature of liking print matter, posters, publications, that sort of thing, and it's where we flourish. But it's also, to me, it's also an act of resistance when it comes to documenting. Mm-hmm. And it is a magazine. It does not bother itself with the history. It's not very much into documenting the history of the region, but it does in a way like touch upon it, and it touch upon the future, and it has like this interesting timeline to it. And I feel like our present moment is so worthy of documenting, and I feel like right now we have a lot of platforms that are obsessing over archiving, for instance, the history of graphic design, but nothing much discusses the present, nothing much celebrates the present. And I feel like a magazine does that. It doesn't bother itself with the weight of the history. It's just now, what we do now, the kind of practices we do. We have amazing photographers, graphic designers, social researchers, and this is the platform for them to be documented as it goes, as it happens, instead of clinging to only like the historical moments that we had and the greatness we had, in a way.
And that's something that you've been very clear about and also very like resolute about, right? In your practice, you've been doing it for quite some time. It's not just a sort of, it starts off as, wondering whether this is like, is it just a graphic designer's like kind of, nerdy like obsession with the nostalgia of printed matter and the smell of the books, but it's really, really beyond that, because I think every act is political inherently, right? And there is a political dimension to having something that is, impenetrable, and something that can't be manipulated. It can be erased. The rivers, the Euphrates turned black with the books that were thrown into it. There's all of that in the history, in the peripheral history that we think of in our imagination of the region's past, but also. There is something really frustrating about the current political moment of being misrepresented, of being, lost at the mercy of the algorithm. And there's something very, like, defiant in a way about, and resistant really, about, putting out your printed matter. It's here to stay. This is the original, harf in a way that you intended. But how do you make the economics work? That's kind of the practical dimension to this, because every designer, every creative house wants to have that bit of their own history, their own stamp. How do you work it out as a studio that also has to be sustainable?
Whenever I'm asked that question, I promise myself like complete transparency and like being extremely blunt about it. Obviously, financially, it's not the smartest decision ever. It's very financially draining. It's very capacity draining, because the designers are working on that on almost like spare time of sorts. So you have the commercial lane that is sustaining the business. You need to keep that, but you're also doing some sort of a side gig. But the side gig is like a big monster that's also like feeding off of the resources, whether on a managerial level or on a design level. But back to the last question. It is a certain level of stubbornness to wanting to do this, regardless of how non-sustainable sometimes it is. But from a purely business perspective, I waited for this to happen for 4 years. We have been running for quite a while, so there was a capital to be reinvested in that sort of thing. So it was not an impulsive decision that we took once we started the studio. And also from another perspective, we wanted these years to like have a conversation of sorts and have something to say. So it was like building up to this point, like from a financial point of view, and also from like a practice-based point of view. And we had to hold our commercial practices for quite I think for maybe 6 months of doing only this. Not the entirety of the team, but parts of the team had to like hold, not do any commercial work, and be completely dedicated to this, which is again very risky. But I'm so glad that we had like the resources to do that. We were supported by AFOC, which is a cultural fund, but like big part of it was also funded by the studio itself. So it's a decision, it's a commitment, and it's a reinvestment in something that we're extremely passionate about.
As a founder, though, that's something that you kind of have to reckon with on your own, right? You kind of have to sit there and decide, like, first you go into it and, you've been wanting to do this for a long time, and you have, all these pressures and voices in your head. How do you reconcile, like, what is your actual kind of, process between, you and your team members, or between you and yourself, that clarifies things for you as you see the studio growing, as you're being pulled in different directions, as commercial opportunities are coming your way? Deliver this in 2 months. You know that call, right? Yeah. You're familiar with it. So it's like, how do you make those decisions, and how do you really like take a step back, and what really helps you navigate those pressures?
First off, the team is here, so I'm gonna give them a shout out if I can see them. Mina, Tasneem, Nadine, and Yusuf. These guys are rock stars.
Round of applause.
So please.
I've only seen them from the
I can't see them from the light, but these are the people behind it all. I think like the answer to this is the start of Forty Mustaqal itself, not only the publication. I think from the get-go, we knew that we don't want to do work that only brings in money. It is part of the process. You have to sustain yourself in a way. But like the decisions from the get-go were committed to projects that we feel a certain way about. And our community, and the reason why I'm here today is because of these like series of decisions into like going deep into the art and culture sector, being very selective about the people that we work with. We see eye to the eye with them. We have a common, like for instance here, Soul, it's more on the entertainment side of things. Other projects we work on are on the more political side of things. But there is a common umbrella and there is a common theme between all our collaborators and how we see the region, how we see like how we want to go about things in a way. And this built to me just a common interest on the people that join the studio. It's very like clear what the kind of work that we do. So ISDAR did not come as a surprise. It came as if it's a celebration of these past 4 years, and it's like a compilation of what we have achieved together and what we wanted to do for the longest time. It only was the wait until the right moment happens when it comes to resources. That's it. But it's only like a continuation of what we started in a way at the studio.
I mean, one thing that you are also known for, and we've witnessed and had the luxury of, of working with, but there's also a poster that's going around somewhere that's rolled up. I'm not sure if it landed anywhere. Oh, there. Okay, yeah. You can keep passing everything, and just please bring it back because it's our only copy. and not the best print quality because we didn't have the luxury of flying out to Cairo and making sure that 40 Mustaqil proved it. So apologies in advance to the team up there. We're not doing it justice with our digital prints. So one of them is Cinema Akil in 25 hours, our location at 25 Hours Hotel at One Central. And we worked together on so many different fronts. Like this wasn't a typical branding exercise. So one was also like educational in a way. This is a brand that came from Germany. We wanted to make sure that the Arabic is honored, it's respected, it's kind of, developed as part of the brand. But the other part was the sort of transmedia dimension, right? So you were working with musicians, you were working with animators, you were working with 3D modelers, you were working with, all kinds of different, and you also put together a playlist, so you kind of are very, plugged in and always in conversation with a lot of different spaces and creators. And that's another level of excitement, but it's also another level of pressure. Like how do you, put together that sort of decision-making ladder where, we're gonna do this project now and we're not gonna do anything else? Is there something that you kind of follow that helps you be more specific about what you say yes to and what and really what you say no to?
I think, honestly speaking, it's about, again, the people. And in all honesty, it's about you being part of that project. Because I knew if I had you on that party, on the side of the client, I would be able to move in a certain way creatively that I aspire to do. And I knew I would have that kind of support. Obviously, different projects has different scales and things and like parameters that you need to cater to. But like a pop-up cinema owned by Cinema Akil or you, to me sounded exciting because I knew I would have that kind of support. And you would be the person who would also appreciate us like not settling for only graphic design. And we discussed this for a couple of times. That we onboarded like a 3D person to animate like the entire Rococo pattern kind of thing, and we wanted to onboard a musician to do like a jingle for the cinema itself. And I think like a common interest between us and the client is also what moves me more than it is. Of course, there are other parameters, but I know that there are collaborators that I would flourish with, and I know there are collaborators that wouldn't really match our energy. So it's always a question of who are we working with, and I try as much as I can to stay adamant on not working with people that I know we're not going to be aligned with. I know there will be misalignment of sorts. They're leaning towards things that I naturally wouldn't lean towards. Maybe they're more, quote unquote, whatever that means, commercial. They don't have as much like a nuanced discussion around the cultural sector. Then I would shy away from that in a way. And also, to be extremely frank, it's also a matter of a financial support that the project brings to the studio and the scale of the project. We try as much as we can to stay relevant to smaller scale projects, but then this also has a limited capacity to what the studio can take on. So it's a balance between small cute projects where we can support local artists, for instance, and like mega projects where it's well funded but also still caters to the kind of portfolio we want to build.
And the other part is like, the thinking around, and this is something we saw, eye to eye a lot, is the sort of involvement of the team and, the approach of collective care, in who you work with and who you collaborate with. And, that's the other dimension to kind of pursuing all the passions. Like you might want to do all of these things, right? But it also adds a lot of pressure, onto the team. And I wonder sometimes, how do you make those decisions collectively? Do you have sort of, a huddle on every project? Is there a part of it that's really lonely where you do kind of shoulder the burden, you have to take a step back? Is there something you can share, I guess, the wisdom that you have now?
I think I am, I'm not saying this because they're here, but I'm extremely blessed to have a team that is so passionate about what they do, and also I'd like to believe that like me on a personal level, and I like them on a personal level, and there is mutual care between us. And it depends. I say the person who's macro managing the thing. There are bits and pieces that not everyone knows, again, operationally, logistically, financially, but there's still the human aspect of going to every team member and asking them, are you comfortable working on this? Are you excited about this? Is this something that caters to your interest in that moment?
Have you said no to anything based on a feedback loop?
Yeah, a couple of times actually. A couple of times that I've said no, and because the team was not excited about it, or one specific person did not want to work on this, so another person got the chance to work on it. So it's a question of discussing this with the team and having the right members to also consult on this, and they have been, again, rock stars when it comes to that, because they push through when you need them to push through, and because it comes very naturally to them to power through the rough moments. And I think I'd like to believe that they also appreciate when it's a slow season, and I try to give them the time to also be involved in more strategic decisions. So it's really about, again, the people behind the studio. I wouldn't have been able to do anything without them, and they remain the rock that I also go to whenever. From another point of view, because again, I remain the person who manages this on a macro level, there has to be moments where you have to veto things because the ship will not sail otherwise. And I think if you build that kind of trust over the years, when these moments happen, they are annoying for the team because sometimes they don't see the entirety of the situation. But I'm betting on having them have trust in me enough across the years that when the veto moments happen, they know I know what I'm doing in a way. So it's all about that to me.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about, you work in Cairo, you're based in Cairo, you're surrounded by the design language of Cairo and the design community as well, right? So that's its own microcosm, right? And its own dynamics. And yet, a lot of your work translates and ends up being, in the larger region. And you talk often about your commitment to design in the Swana region and representational beyond just representation, right? And I wonder how it is that you continuously keep your finger on the pulse. How do you build those collaborations? In the case of 25 hours, Cinema Akil in 25 hours, you worked with an artist based in India. You've constantly reached out. We even have clients all over the place. So how do you continuously monitor what's out there? How do you stay in touch? How do you remain authentic to the context in which a project happens? For example, Seoul DXB and everything that it represents.
I think being Cairo-based, if anyone has ever been to Cairo, it's very intense. It's very in the best way possible and the worst way possible.
That's an understatement.
And I think this feeds you a lot of visual knowledge in a way, whether historically or in the present moment. And I'm very reluctant to leave just because of that, because something is happening always and you're being surrounded with such an engaged community.
What do you mean you're reluctant to leave? Is there pressure or sort of sometimes a thought of...
It's just because by the nature of the business now, we work a lot in the GCC, for instance, so there has been a question of why are we not moving to another city or have another studio, another office based in another city, which I would love to do in general. But having a foot down in Cairo is something that I feel I want to always have, just because maybe it's even a personal experience of sorts, because all of us have been brought up there. There's something that's still very personal to how we perceive the city and how we navigate the city and how we get inspired from the city. And I still believe it's still like almost all our work is Cairo coded, even if it is like expanding beyond that, it's Cairo coded, and I love that. It's like a small like Easter egg that
What does
we
that mean
leave.
to you?
It is the people again, because we as a team are very like attached to the city. It's a love-hate relationship that you develop over the years of living in Cairo. It's very crushing in a way, but it's also like what it does that it also like inspires you and it feeds you inspiration whether you like it or not. Because out of the, I wouldn't say struggle, but out of tension, you get a lot of creation. And again, to me, it's very hard to describe, but Cairo coded to me is the people that are living in Cairo, and I feel like this is a level of authenticity that is very hard to replicate. But on the other hand, like we get rid of that like attachment to the city when we're working on another project in another city, and like we truly come with fudul and curiosity towards the thing. And we really appreciate maybe, okay, listen, we don't know anything about this city, please teach us. And this happens very often in projects that we work with Palestinians, for instance. We come off and we're like, oh, the kufaya, the pattern, the things. And we really try not to do that, but sometimes it slips from us, If we just do like a little ghusn zatoun, it would be so amazing. And then we're taught, like, and they clap back, and I love that.
Just put a
watermelon. And they're like,
yeah.
listen, this is not us.
Yeah.
We're so many other things.
Yeah.
So it's a certain level of humbleness that you go into projects with to be taught. And we also stalk a lot of people on Instagram to find our collaborators. Shout out to Mina for being that. Mina is our like database person when it comes to collaborations. He puts a lot of effort into educating himself on what's happening now, whether in India, in the region, in Cairo, whatever it is. I think like he dedicates a lot of time in finding the right collaborators for the right projects. And I think this is also another strength that we have as a studio. So yeah, I think it's like having a foot in the thing that speaks the most to you, but also having like the humbleness of being taught in a way.
And that's very, I mean, like, I know it sounds very, biased, and they call it, shahadti majruha, which is like, my testimony is a little tarnished, but, it is, we've worked, very closely together on different types of projects. We've done the Italian Film Week, for example, was our first project, and it was, how do we do an Italian Film Week that is not just, kind of a Eurocentric, presentation slate of films, through the programming, but also through the design language. It was a year we opened with Haidar Rashid's Europa, a film about, immigration and escaping the, sort of anti-immigration vigilantes in Hungary. And it was also a tribute to the late Monica Vitti through films by Antonioni. And, they were able to kind of bring the chicken home to roost somehow, without it being, just a nod, to the region, without it just being, and there was this curiosity that, that you explain, and it is a frustration we've always faced, and we continuously face, being, in the Gulf, without a full, especially a city like Dubai, like it's a city that is, a lot of different things. And Seoul DXB is one of those places where they have done the work, for now a decade and more. And what I wonder is there a certain aspect of, sadness as well that comes with having to, you're not just making a commercial decision, right? There is a real brain drain problem in the region where, from the tragedies or the catastrophic, whether it's economic catastrophes or political catastrophes or genocides, that are realities of every day in our region, that force you to have to constantly think about being elsewhere, right? So is that something that you have to battle with, your team has to battle with, that you are confronted with as a real business owner as well, in terms of your clients, your team, your realities of every day, and the cost of running a business there?
I think it's also like a situation where I try as much as I can to find a balance between accommodating to care work in a way and understanding like the situation that we're in, because obviously none of us wanted to work at some point, none of us wanted to leave BID at some point, and including myself. And at the end of the day, there's a stream of cash flow that needs to sustain the business. And I think to me, it's a very like difficult balance on a personal level, because I care about these people on a very personal level, but also I know there has to be a decision made to just sustain the business, so I can actually sustain them as well. So it's not an easy decision, and it has been difficult in ways, but I try to stretch my care work as much as I can again. And at some point, when the team sees this, I think they trust that when the moment comes to, we all need to function at some point collectively as a region, and as us in our small studio in Maadi, they also pull through in a way that I really appreciate, and they like come to rescue in a way. It wasn't easy, and it will never be easy. And I think it's a discussion like that we had with Maya from Software, for instance, how difficult it is to wake up every day knowing what's happening and still do graphic design in a way, which is, I'm not underestimating the power that design and culture has over the region, but it's fine to also like look at other practitioners and feel sad and grief and feel how nonsensical this might be at some points. And I feel like maybe seeking community and finding other people who would feel the same is at least validating to these feelings and acknowledging how difficult it is to go on about our days, our business, our practice. It brings some comfort. It does not bring solutions, but it brings some comfort in a way.
I mean, that's in a way we met or we were introduced through a festival called Film My Design, which is very much about the presentation of design in the moving image. And there is sometimes a tendency to remove the contextual considerations from the design work itself, right? The fact that it is aesthetic, the fact that it is visual, removes it from the actual sort of soul that goes into it, and pun not intended here. And in a way, is this sort of the thinking behind how you worked on ISDAR, the sort of meditative aspect of it, being able to put all of these moments and ideas into a publication, to a printed matter, and capture the now?
I think actually ISDAR was even more difficult, because with commercial work, you detach yourself at some point, not in a bad way, but it is commercial work. You bring that to the client at the end of the day. They have a say in it, and big say in it. And at some point, you get to a point where it's almost transactional, which is fine. With self-initiated projects, it's even more difficult, because your heart is in it, and there is no other person that perceives this until it comes out to the open. So it's a induced anxiety in a way. And I think this was even more difficult for us, because we feel the pressure in a way, whether content creation or design. So it is very liberating to have that, but it also, like I said, it's a self-induced anxiety kind of situation, because this is you, this is what you want to say to the world. You're not being fed a brief, and you're not expected to do anything else. For what it matters, nobody is.
You're putting yourself
anything
out there.
Exactly.
Really, yeah.
So it's liberating and very anxiety-inducing in a way, I think, and I would do it again when I'm well rested. But and I think it's a one of a kind of project that you go through, and you go through like the ups and downs of it. But it has so much soul, pun intended this time, soul in it, that I
feel like there's emojis like running around us, like.
So I think self-initiated projects are a different kind of difficult in a way.
Well, I'm really glad that was an opportunity for us to really see it, to breathe it. It's an absolutely edible, stunning publication. I had the luxury and
I have to ask, is the coded with them? Because
it's all subliminal. Like 40 Mustaqil lives in you. You're all going to walk out of here like somehow elevated aesthetically. I think, like there is really something very inherently, powerful about you being able to present this, to be able to take a moment and to put your team together and say, we're doing this, we're honoring our work, and we're owning this moment, and nobody can take that away from you. So you can get, copies of ISDAR Mustaqil at the merchandise store. Please, grab a copy, support the studio, support this, this work that is really, really important, and it is slipping away from our, fingers and opportunities to produce printed matter. And it's not just nostalgia, as we were saying, it's really about owning this piece of time. And I think in this particular moment, there is a defiance to having these, publications, these books, these, this, labor of love and tears and, and actual like lived experiences that go in every page. And it's a stunning piece of work as well. So, congratulations for it. I'm gonna do a quick like rapid fire before we open up to everyone, because I know everybody's dying to. So I want to ask you, like, if you had this magic wand, right? One thing you would change about the way that regional design is, perceived or implemented, what would it be?
Oh my God, that's a tough one.
In like 10 seconds.
10 seconds. I think that we're trying to compensate for anything. We're not. Like, it is what it is. We're not trying to catch up to anything. I think it's glorious what's happening here, and it is what it is, I think. So, like, the narrative that we're catching up to something, I would change that, I think.
We're there.
We're there.
We're
We're
there.
very much there. It's very much
100%.
happening.
I love it. Okay, who would you like to work with, like throughout time in history, any time, any moment? Who would you like to do something with collaboratively?
This is a very personal decision, but it will be Kulthum because I'm obsessed. Shout out to her, I guess.
Cats or dogs? Tricky one.
Cats.
Cats.
Yeah.
Oof. There's actually a few pages spreads dedicated to that answer, so put your money where your mouth is. What's an interesting trend today that you're monitoring?
I think we're trying to have a very humble understanding of the entire 3D phenomena without like stepping too deep into time-stamped trends. But I think it's happening, and we're trying to have a nuanced understanding of how to pull from that.
What's really nauseating to you?
Lettuce.
If you could, Leila Gohar would challenge you on that. She's made beautiful things out of it.
I'm so sorry about that.
If you could choose an inanimate object to eat, what would it be?
A cat.
Inanimate.
That sounds so weird. Okay, maybe that's
They're
a very
eating
hard
the
question
cats.
to answer, but like they're so fluffy, and I want
That was
to.
intentional.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd skip this one because it will be a weird answer regardless.
What song do you currently have on repeat?
A song by Our Father.
A film that colors your world.
I have a weird like attachment to films that I've watched as a teenager. So Saidi في الجامعة الأمريكية brings me a lot of comfort when I'm anxious. So yeah, I play that when I want to like not think about anything. I guess Muhammad Hanedi's time.
Muhammad Hanedi all the way. A place that always inspires you when you're feeling like
A place.
a place.
I don't want to be that person, but our studio actually.
Love it.
Yeah.
Maadi, I mean, come on.
Exactly. We have a small garden and it's beautiful. So.
What's a designer's best kept secret?
Best kept secret? I don't know. That's a hard one.
We'll circle back. If
Yeah,
there was one color you
yeah.
had to work with your entire life, that's it, all colors disappeared, what would it be?
Black.
If you could be an animal, I'm guessing.
No, I'm not gonna say cats because now it's starting to get weird, but like a horse.
What's your biggest flex?
Flex?
Mm-hmm. Your design flex.
I think I own a pretty badass studio, so it's
That's
a flex. It's a humble flex. You asked, so I had to drop it.
Who's your superhero?
My mom.
Amen. Thank you so much, Nada. Over to you, folks. Please, first of all, a round of applause for Nada for being so amazing.
Thank you so much.
And for the incredible team right there. There's a mic going around. Please, with a show of hands. I can't see some of you because of the light, but wave. Right here in the middle, gentleman with the glasses, sunglasses.
So, Nada. Hello.
Hi.
So Nada, I'm Egyptian born and raised, so I can relate to the love and hate relationship with Cairo. So I have to go there every 2 or 3 months to get
Your
Yes,
dose of love and hate.
So how do you deal with this in your publication, especially dealing with the change in the society in Egypt, given the circumstances geopolitically? And do you mirror this in your publications by any means, directly or indirectly, given we know what's going on, or is this something you just curve out from your publications to? And this is one. But number two, how do you publicize this locally in Egypt as well? Because I think there is a lot of people who would be interested to get this in Egypt, but maybe they don't get the feeds, the access. Thank you.
I think the people we've worked with are very rooted in Cairo, but also in the region. So it came naturally that the product and the content creation has been very much in touch in ways that are maybe not so direct to the region and to Cairo. And I feel like this is in a way, I'm very proud of that, because it does not really like penetrate issues in a way that is so direct, but it also like touches upon it in a sometimes in a very serious matter, sometimes in a very historical matter, sometimes in a almost satirical way. So it still does not like delve into the city in a way that is so dramatic. It sometimes takes itself very seriously, but sometimes it releases that completely. And this, to me, is a more like nuanced understanding of what Cairo is. It's a love-hate relationship, because you sometimes very much love it, and you love. And there is a piece about cats. It's not Cairo-based piece, but still, it has like the stupid aspect to it. But sometimes it's so serious, and it talks about like the history of Arabic script through like an entire piece that is so serious in a way. And I feel like this does not only depict the region, depicts Cairo as well in its nature. Not necessarily that every piece discusses the city, but the nature of the publication is very much, I would say, Cairean in a way. And what was the other question? I'm sorry. Right now we're selling it in Cairo Art Book Fair, so it's still happening until tomorrow. And there we're going to be distributing this across our collaborators and distributors, so Diwan, Alif, that sort of thing. They will be there. And we're planning to have it in universities and in other like academic institutions. We try as much as we can to seek to our network to distribute this regionally. So we try our best to like pull our threads and have this thing in accessible places as much as possible. Thank you so much.
Right there, a question.
Congratulations, Nada and Mustaqil, on the launch of ISDAR. We're super excited to have it here in UAE. I have a question about the theme chosen for the first issue, language. Could you tell us a little bit about why this was the focus for the first issue, and is this something that you're going to carry on into other issues in the future? And I remember there was an open call for contributions. How was the process of selecting the contributors? I got my copy yesterday, thank God. And obviously the list of contributors are quite diverse and from different parts of the region. I'm just curious about the selection process. How did you come about the selection?
So language as a theme is such a loose umbrella. Actually, it's not only design language. It's language as almost like a living thing. So it takes a journey through what a language is. Sometimes, again, it's very specific. So you're finding other pieces about language as in script, Arabic script, and the development of it. But sometimes it's social language. Sometimes it's political language. Sometimes it's how language itself and script itself can be extremely political. And sometimes it's very like ridiculous, and about how a Tunisian person would call a cat when they're like in feeling how fluffy it is. So language in a way it became like this living organism that changes, and our understanding of the theme itself quite shifted across the process. And I think like us snapping out from design language as we know it and like letting ourselves explore what the word language means in like different levels was such an exciting process for us. And the people behind it are amazing editors from Mada Masr who are like they have been in the scene for quite a while. They knew what they're doing pretty much when it comes to content creation. And also Hussein, our publishing director, has been the bridge between design and content. And I think this is quite unique to have a designer who's a publishing director for that sort of thing. So on an editorial perspective and on a design perspective, we had like quite an interesting bridge in that way. So. And this also helped in our understanding of the content and how it morphed into design. There was another question that I forgot. What was it?
The theme is going to be carried on to other issues.
It is a debate, and this is the sort of thing that I wouldn't be the person to take that decision on my own. And I've suggested that maybe language can be, it's a phase. So basically, we have maybe 3 issues that speaks about language because there has been a lot of content that we couldn't feature. we had to cut out, but it's so interesting and still very, very relevant. So I was discussing with the team, maybe it's a case where we delve into that matter and we take our time with it and we produce a couple of issues, and then you know what? We're done with it and we explore something else. And this releases any FOMOs that we missed out on a good part that we could have featured, and also give us time to like deepen our understanding of our thematic umbrellas in a way. And there's another scenario where we, you know what, let this be like put to rest, and then we move to something else. So I'm not 100% sure about how I feel about it.
A question, Bentley, or you have a question?
I'm an automatic question generator. I was looking to see if anyone else had one. But
I'm going to press that button.
I'm going to press the button. I'm inspired by Hala's question here, but also Hala just finished teaching a course in multilingual, but trilingual publishing. And I only flipped to the first edition here quickly, but I saw texts in Spanish, I think from Amparo, and also one in Armenian. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I'm curious because we have this, discussion about even a bilingual publication, Arabic English, is already sort of a statement, as Butheina mentioned. Everything's political. When you enter that third language, what are you considering? Because I'm imagining maybe no one on your team has actually worked with Armenian before. So as a design house, what considerations do you take to now bring in another language beyond Arabic and English?
From a content perspective, I think this was a decision that, okay, we have a publication about language. It would be insane to ask people to let go of their native tongue to be featured, because we speak in English and Arabic. So it was quite direct. We had a feature. Amparo is a Spanish-speaking person, and Garin and Khashag are Armenian, Lebanese Armenian, and their native tongue, or the tongue they wanted to present in that matter, was Armenian. So it would have been, again, crazy to me that to dismiss an entire piece like that, or translate it beyond its native language, just to fit into our publication when we're claiming it's about language. So it was a very, again, direct decision on that matter. The challenging bit that our Tasneem and Nadine can also speak about is to feature that on a design magazine, and to work with 3 scripts instead of 2, not scripts but languages. It was tricky. I think they had their moments of not wanting to do this anymore, because you're now the navigation changes, or you already have Arabic going against the Latin, and now we have a third language to work with. But I think, again, it was a level of stubbornness. We were talking about this, that this is the right thing to do. Design is a tool. We're gonna literally mold ourselves to find a solution to make it work. And on the other hand, the collaborators themselves were extremely supportive. It came to the point where we package our file, send it back to the Garin, who's the Armenian speaker contributor, to fix some micro typography things that we wouldn't have been able to get ourselves, and then package back our file. So it was a bit chaotic, but to me, I wouldn't change it. It was such a journey, and it was super lovely, and it speaks to the process in a way that is very true to the theme.
Okay, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to wrap this up. I mean, I can't believe it's taken us this long to share a stage. We've been working together constantly through, online, and we keep meeting here at Seoul, so we gotta stop meeting this way, Nada. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining today and for sharing your time, your space, and thank you for your incredible work. Thank you to your team for being so amazing to work with, and thank you to all of you for joining us and spending time with us today. Shout out to ISDAR, at 40 Mustaqil on Instagram. Any other tags you want to mention, or accounts?
Yeah, you can find us on 40 Mustaqil, and the publication has its own baby account, which is ISDAR Mustaqil. You can follow us there, and it's being sold here in the merchandise store. So yeah, I want to see all having the green cover, walking around Seoul. And thank you for your time. This has been amazing. You guys have been an amazing audience, and thank you, Butheina.
Thank you.
It feels like a chat with a friend, like it is. So thank you for making this comfortable, nice experience. I really appreciate you, and I hope I see you again.
Right back at you. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you.